Again, I want to thank the Lord. Again, continue to give us opportunities here to glorify Him, to give God the glory. Positive from this last ball game. I'm really glad to see our guys continue to be competitive, competitive throughout the whole football game, no matter what was going on, the good, the not so good. By them being very competitive, it gave us a chance to even have a chance to win the football game even in the fourth quarter. So that is a positive. The other thing, our defense created 2 takeaways. I think that was a good thing that occurred for us. Offense did not have any turnovers. That's a good thing that occurred for us. I see our guys continue to keep trusting the Lord. I see our guys continue to work hard. The last thing here, I know our guys are keeping faith. Our coaches and our staff and our players, we keep the faith. We got a great opportunity this week to play another game, and we can get this thing turned around here for ourselves, for our fans, and we look forward to this matchup. Gardner-Webb, Coach McCray has done a good job. They're very competitive. I know they're not playing the way they maybe want to play from the 1-loss record, but they have shown that they are very competitive. Their defensive side of the ball has always been the strong point of their football team ever since I've been here. They play an odd front. They do some basic things. They don't blitz a whole lot. They're kind of a bend but don't break type of defense, and they make you earn it. You got to go down the field, and they pretty much try not to give up a lot of big plays, and they've done that this year. The linebackers are very active in that 3-4 defense. They run pretty well. They do have some physical guys with good size. Well, when you talk about their offense, the quarterback, he's the guy. I think as he goes, that's how their team goes. Fantastic runner. Throws the ball very well from compared to last year. I've seen him improve. He's a guy who throws the ball on the run. He can make everybody on the team miss a tackle. You have him thinking that he's all clogged up, and all of a sudden he gets out of it. Sometimes he'll run it for a lot of yards. Sometimes he'll end up throwing it for a lot of yards. So Mr. Maxwell there is a very talented young man, and I think the goal would be to say our defense versus their offense is to hold them under their average, rushing and so on. They right around just under 200 yards as far as their rushing. If we can hold them under that, I think that's a very successful thing as a football team. Special teams, they've been okay. They've been pretty good there as far as their special teams. Nothing really has been real outstanding. Nothing's been real good. They've been steady in the special teams. Injury report here, Corbin Jackson, questionable, has a lower body. That's really probably the only guy here that we're questioning at this point in time. And I think the keys to the game, winning our special teams. We got to play better on special teams. We're not necessarily last game we didn't play quite as well, but we're not really gaining anything out of it here in the last 3 or 4 games. The first 2 or 3 games we were doing some things in a good way in our special teams, but we're kind of now to neutralize things, and we need to making sure we make some plays. On the defensive side, we got to tackle well. And I think I've said it every week here, we must minimum as far as explosive plays. We have to minimize that as much as possible as far as them allowing them explosive plays. We need to have explosive plays on offense. I also like to have us to maybe in the first half, maybe only having 1 3 and out. If we only have 1 3 and out, usually have 5, maybe 6 at the most series in a half. So I think if we only have 1 3 and out, that gives us a chance to score. Also, field position. If we don't necessarily score, then it changes the field position and gives a greater chance to be successful. So I think if we do those things there in the last 2 ball games, we haven't played as well in the first half on both sides of the ball. So I think offensively we can do that. Then once we get in the red zone, 100% of the time that we score touchdowns. And I think those are the keys to the game here against Gardner-Webb that we need to get accomplished. So therefore we can have a chance to be successful and get a victory. Open up for questions.
Coach, last weekend, the gap control had some issues in that first half. Defensively, how do you shore that up? What did you see on tape against Monmouth?
Well, we're looking at it. Maybe some adjustments that are going to be made, maybe some personnel-wise. We're still evaluating those things or what we're going to do or what adjustments. We're not going to make just any total big adjustments, but there are going to be some subtle things that we're going to make some adjustments to make our defense a little bit more better to minimize, again, big plays. So that was an unfortunate situation here this last week. But, again, our coaches are coaching them up. Our players are still in an upbeat mode, and they're ready to get coached, ready to get taught, and ready to play their best football game.
Coach, I know it's one game this week, but how critical is it that you guys go and get a win just to kind of end the losing streak and get confidence back in this team?
Well, I think just like any week, you're always trying to play your best football game that you can win and continue to have your momentum going in the right way. Right now, we're kind of in a little stalemate, but I like again, playing hard, that's what I look at as saying, what's the effort like? What's the competitiveness of our football team, both in practice and also does it carry over in the game? And I think there's no question the game is carried over. It's all about execution and the small details of what we need to get accomplished. I think I don't know if you want to say a little bit of the inexperience. When I say inexperience, it may not totally be classification, but it's because of the inexperience of how much playing time that they've gotten in the past year. We've only got 9, 10 seniors. We got juniors and sophomores playing a lot. In some reason or another here in the first half, there's a little bit of lull of focus. And so we as a coaching staff, we as players are all coming together trying to see that what we can do. Again, it takes each individual person. They all got to look at themselves and try to improve on those areas. So, again, our guys are knowing that we can still do better than what we have. And, again, we got another great opportunity here to get that corrected.
Second time in 3 weeks, you'll be facing a team where the quarterback is the leading rusher. Again, Gardner-Webb's not going to run a triple option, but Tyrell Maxwell, very dynamic. What type of runs have you seen from him and on tape so far this year?
Well, they do have the option type of attack. They do have what we call QB runs, quarterback runs, anywhere from the draws to the counters to the quarterback ISOs. So they got multiple ways where he can carry the football. So it's 11-on-11 football, and no question, again, you still got gap control. You're still always going to have somebody on the quarterback. You have to have somebody assigned to the quarterback, and when you're assigned to the quarterback, you play the quarterback and you don't play anyone else as far as in the scheme of things of that nature. So it's going to be very important for everybody to do that. We got to tackle well. He's a big guy. I think he's probably maybe put on a little bit more pounds as far as from last year, so he's a little bit stronger, still has good speed. So, again, they got some good schemes, and we got to come up and make some plays. Our secondary is going to have to be involved in it. Their safeties to make some tackles, and even our corners.
When you look at Gardner-Webb's record, 1-6, do you kind of have to convince your team that this is a much better team than their record indicates?
Well, I think where we're at right now is about us. It wouldn't matter what's the one-loss record of whoever we're playing this week. It's about us getting corrected, the things that we need to get corrected as coaches, the things that our players need to get corrected as players, so therefore they can execute better than the game. Again, we've had some great spurts in games, but we need to get 4 quarters. I think that's what's been happening here in these last 2 or 3 games.
If Corbin does not go on Saturday, do you see Seneca playing that spur, or do you maybe move Ryan back down to where he's played majority of the year?
To be determined, to be honest with you. I think we'll make that decision later in the week. Again, we're looking at a lot of different things here as we move along as far as personnel. What's going to give us our best chance against Gardner-Webb? That's kind of where we're really focusing, not necessarily totally for the season. We're talking about Gardner-Webb, who are the best 11 guys that give us the best chance to be successful against them. So all the above could be happening. We'll figure that out at the end of the week.
Coach, you mentioned lack of focus and special teams as 2 reasons as the bigger differences between the first 3 games and the most recent 4 games. Would those be 2 things that you would pinpoint as reasons for this losing streak, or are there other reasons that you feel like there's been such a big change between the first 3 and the last 4?
Well, I think part of it is opponents. I got to give the other team some credit too from that perspective. But I also think that there's been execution. You can term it, like I said, a little bit of lack of focus. Like I said, the competitiveness, that hasn't been disappeared. It's just a little bit of time in the parts of the game where there is a little bit of a lack of focus for whatever reason. Again, we're in good shape because, like I said, we finished the game in great ways in the 4th quarter and all those kind of things. So we got to continue to mindset our guys in a great way, staying focused and detailed on what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it. But there's some cases they're doing what they're supposed to do, but then they're in position to make a play or make a block, make a catch, whatever it is, or make a throw, but it's not happening. And so that's why you practice. That's why you continue to go at it. Nobody's perfect. And I think we're on our way to make these adjustments, and we want to be this week.
Damian King back to 100%?
Yeah, he's good. He's good to go.
Thought on Buckshot, and a couple of his throws, and again, 5 touchdown passes, great on Saturday, but a couple of his throws, he throwing off his back foot. Haven't really noticed him doing that much this year. Is that just a product of what Monmouth was doing defensively, or just maybe trying to get the ball downfield a little bit further?
Oh, it has nothing to do with the opponent. It's talking about pocket presence, pocket footwork. A couple of times there he kind of got off balance there and kind of got his feet tangled up a little bit and was not able to make the throw. So it's just really in the pocket when he feels a little bit of pressure somewhere and still being able to stay on stride to make the throw. And that's where a little bit of the off kilter as far as making the throws, the accuracy is starting to decline. Again, you're never always going to be just step back here and you're going to make that throw here when you're like just throwing up in practice or something. There's movement around, and you got to be able to make an accurate throw when you're moving. And we got to shorten up his stride as he's moving in the pocket, whether they got to go left, whether they got to go right, whether they got to go forward. That's a little bit there off, and we'll work on that and continue to do that.
From last week to this week, what is the biggest area you'd like to see the most improvement in your team?
If I had to say one thing, I think if I said the prayer, probably just in the second quarter, both sides of the ball, being consistent, defensively, not allowing them to score in the second quarter. Obviously, offensively, they say that we score on every drive in the second quarter. If you say the one area that maybe that's been a little bit totally inconsistent, good and the bad, it'd be that one area. But I think it's just tackling well, and then there's the execution on the offense as far as consistency.
Comment or two on Elijah Mitchell, how he did filling in for Greg, and Greg is listed back on the depth chart, so is he good to go?
Greg's story is all back in. How much he plays starting-wise, we're anticipating that, but we're going to take it day by day. He's ready to go at this point in time. Elijah Mitchell, I thought he did okay. Nothing really great and nothing really bad. Again, this first time he's played a whole lot of snaps and starting a football game. There is a little bit of difference when you start versus when you're not starting. You get a chance to talk to some of your teammates. Well, how is this guard? How is this center? So on and so forth. But now you're right from the start and trying to feel it out as far as how good people are and how they are and how strong they are and all that. So great experience for him. I think he's going to learn from that, and he's going to continue to be better even this season.
2 years ago, playing a driving rainstorm down there. Last year, Dexter had the nice block. How much do you bring these games up, if at all? I think I know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When it comes to
they naturally going to see it as far as our coaches. I don't get involved in talking a whole lot about that. You talk about their surroundings and all that. You always talk about slightly about weather, particularly if that's weather going to happen at the end of the week. If on Saturday there's going to be potentially some bad weather, but that's about it. We're talking about so much more about us, particularly this week, and really in the last 2 weeks is really saying here's what we need to do and here's how we need to do it. Here's what the opponent does, how they line up and do all those kind of things of that nature. So that's how we have been coaching and teaching our guys, and I just know our guys are definitely anxious to play another football game and try to get this all resolved.
How about Alex Probert? Last couple of weeks haven't had the opportunity for field goal opportunities, which if you're thinking red zone is a good thing if you're not having to kick for 3 points. How do you keep him fresh during the week?
Well, we put scenarios up for him and put him in those things there to force kicking and different things that are happening. Put them all over the hashes, different places, long distance, short distance. I think he's in good spirits. I think he's done a good job. Obviously had one bad kick there as an extra point, but I still feel very, very confident in his ability to do what he needs to do in his job. So, like I said, it's a good thing in one sense. We're not kicking for field goals, and we're having opportunities to have touchdowns. But if it presents itself, I have no problem allowing him to kick.
Hey, Coach. So you did decide to go for 3 times and did not get any of those points. Can you just tell us kind of the reasoning behind doing that, and then rather than going for kind of the safe 1 point?
Well, basically all that is we all have a 2-point chart, and there's certain however many points you're behind or you're ahead or whatever, the analytics have already put all those things together for us, and so I go off of that chart. And whatever that chart says, I ain't gonna say you're 100%, but most of the time you kind of go. There's sometimes maybe early in the ball game, say first half, the chart may say go for 2. And, I may just say, well, it's too early in the game to, even if the chart says it, I'm going to go for 1. But that's really what happens is you usually have a chart in front of you. You look and see what the score is at that point in time. And like I said, 98% of the time, you probably go ahead and do what the chart says.
Coach, how about your running game? Do you plan on keeping the distribution of carries about what it has been recently, or will one back get more carries this week than before?
I think going into the game, we probably go into it really saying 2 guys going to play, and then we kind of have packages, a certain package that if so-and-so's in the game, we're going to run this type of plays. When they're in the ball game, there can be all different things. Each week we change it up. As far as when I say we have somebody that's going to run a certain scheme or certain plays that we want them to run. So 2 guys are going to always play. We could play all 4 of them, just because of different packages that would go in. So we'll talk about it, continue to talk about it this week, whether we, go with 3, maybe not, but we're always going to have a package. And that's why you see multiple guys go in. Sometimes we only play 2 guys. Sometimes we only play 3 guys.